Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for invitation. I'm Nicola Delon. I'm a French architect of Encore Heureux office. We are based in Paris and also in Marseille in the south of France. I will share briefly to you during 10 minutes 6 different projects that we're designing and building since around 15 years. So I want to start with this drawing, which is a spaceship Earth. It's a quotation from Buckminster Fuller, an American architect, that said that we are all on a spaceship and we have a crew that is increasing of 1 million people a week. So when we did this drawing, it was in 2014, and we were 7,200 million of people. And now we are 8 billion of people. So it's easy to understand that the resource will be less and less available. If we are looking at architecture, we are at a very specific time in our history. We have less and less resources, and at the same time, we are producing more and more trash. So you have these two curves at the same time. So what's this drawing inspire us if we are looking at architecture? It's important to understand that everything came from nature. And we say that we need 300 kilograms of nature to make 10 kilograms of industrial design. So we need to consider that the material of the future will be the cities. That will be the material, and we need to work with that. We cannot take more and more resources in the nature or on agricultural fields. In 2014, we did a big exhibition in Paris presenting and showing the reuse of material in architecture. So we collect hundreds of projects all around the world from new way of building with existing stuff. And some months later, the City Hall of Paris asked us to redesign a small office. That was the starting point. It was a very old place with painting walls, and they asked us to make a recycling design, to make reuse material to change the design of the space. So we proposed them to work with the trash of the city of Paris, and we go in the place where the people trash the chairs, for example, and all the wood parts. And we work with the team of the City Hall to transform this element. And then we paint the global chair and we change it to make the new design. And everything that you see in this picture is made with the material that we take from the trash. So it was a very circular project. A few months later, there was the COP21 in Paris in 2015. And now the city of Paris asked us to make a small building to say, okay, you make interior design, but can you build something with circular economy? And so we work with these doors and we make the circular pavilion, which is circular not in the shape. You see, it's just an angular shape, but it's circular because the facade of the building is made with wood doors that we take from a housing building that was close to be demolished. And so we design everything with this first material that we take. And also in the interior, we work with the same chairs that we take from the trash, and we work with all the materials. 85% of this building was made with reusing material. Another project we did in Brittany, it's a west part of France, was to transform this old building from the 19th century and to make a school inside. So we start to collect all the material that was in this building, and now we take these elements inside the same building. And we start to make the school on the first floor, and on the other floor, it was a cultural and social spaces, and we work also for this floor with all the rest of the tiles of the ceramics that we were using in the sanitary, and we take all the parts and we did this kind of assemblage. Here you can see also we use the sky dome of the first building, and we make this kind of light inside the building to make it possible. And in this room also, we take all the part of the gyps that was staying in the building and we just assemble them to put them in the same place. Another project is to transform an industrial site. And you see the building in the bottom of the picture, and it was a concrete building, and we need to transform it. So the way we work for that is to ask people what they want inside the building, what they want we did. So we make a lot of meetings and trying to understand the situation, understand the building, and also we collect many elements to make this project using some windows, doors, lavatory stuff, heating system, insulation, even some piece of wood. And we transform this building using all this material. Here are the doors of the sanitary, and here are the heating system made by reusing this heating element. And here is the wood that we add in the building to transform the concrete shape and to make new uses inside. And this is outside, and also we decide to keep the outside facade in this situation. We didn't paint it, we just keep it as it were when we arrive, and we just make it possible. And here is a different scale of project. It's in Paris, in the north of Paris, and it's a city car site. You see the building in the middle, there was a car park, and there was a competition asking us to demolish the car park. And we decided to keep it, and we decided to make housing inside the car park. So we keep the structure, we keep the concrete, and this is a picture at the time when we keep the concrete, we just open the middle to have light in the middle of the building, and from this concrete structure we did housing. And it's very specific housing because all the apartments have big balcony, because we didn't design the building, we just transform it. So also that is very important. When you start from an existing building, you have a lot of elements that make the design also with you, and you are not just on the white page designing something with no relationship with the existing and with the materiality. And the last project, it's very small. I want to finish with this one. It's more an art installation, and it's in the southwest of France. And we did the small tents of stones in a very natural park. And we want to make like a camping tent, but in stone. And we work with people that are working with these stones. There is no concrete, no cement. It's just stone one on the other. And we did these two small tents. And this material is very simple because you can, maybe in 1,000 years, you can take these stones and make something else. So for us, it's a good way to think the future of architecture. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. I hope you hear me well.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I was asked to serve as a moderator. My name is Ito. So let me ask some questions. So you showed us some great programs and works. Suo-san, do you have any questions to the presentation? It was my first time to see your projects. I'm doing the same kind of projects. Rather than keep consuming, we should do something different. We have to take a different approach, I think. We have to rethink the value of the things or the material. And I think that will lead to a new way of architecture. So when did you start that projects or that kind of approach? When have you started taking that approach of circulation?
We start almost 10 years ago. And we start because when we quit the School of Architecture, we start to work as classical architect, and we realized that lots of material are going to trash. And it was very aggressive for us to see all this material on the site construction. You have the bin of trash that are always full. And we say it's not possible. We cannot trash so much materiality. And for example, in the Paris area, 75% of the trash, of the global trash, came from architecture and construction. So it's a huge amount of material. And we know that the ecosystem are super fragile, and we cannot continue to extract so much materiality. So we start 10 years ago to think about that, and now we think each year it's more and more important to be in this way.
I also have a question. You've done a lot of projects and you are reusing material or you are reproducing the space. And in your projects, for example, there are things that have been prepared or there are things that have already been existing there. And out of those things, you have to create beauty. Like you had a stone building. They are traditional, but at the same time, there are contemporary aspect to it. So what's your take on this?
Yeah, it's a very good question. For example, with the stone building, it's a very traditional technique, but we take the traditional technique and we transform it to something that is more for now. And we like to cross the history, to cross the in French we say the savoir-faire. I don't know in English is how to make it, because there is a material on one side and there is also the way you can use the material. And it's very important because in France, well, maybe it's a different. In Japan, maybe you take care of the uses and of the savoir-faire, the way to make things. But in France, we are in a society which is not very close to the construction, you know. We're just designing stuff and we just want the result. But in between, we don't mind. So we want also to give a chance of people that are working, that are transforming the reality, to be more important as architects. You know, architects without builders are nothing. We are no one if we don't have the people around us, with us, that make it possible. So the question is very important also for us, and the beauty, of course, because we are transforming reality to make it better.
The last piece, the stones. I always think about reproduction. Even if an art piece is from 10,000 years ago, I think it's same as contemporary art. There are same value because there are functions to it. Even if in the recent days or today, like for example, Leonardo da Vinci's piece is impressing us because there is an element of contemporary. What is important is how to understand the mind of the current people. In that sense, the stone piece or the city hall, it is about how we understand the relationship between the past and the current days, and I find it very interesting.
Yeah, it's right. We try to understand the links between the times, and also we try to say that it's not less creative to start from existing, you know, because when we were at school, we were at the white page, and you say, okay, you are the designer, you need to draw, and you are drawing the reality. But we think that we need to change our way to make and to be more aware of what is here. So we need to be more precise in the way we are looking at the existing things. And in this new way of looking, we can transform the reality, taking also with us the history path of, you know, the change of times. It's super strong, creative path.
Thank you very much. We could talk forever, but we have to complete this talk by 5 o'clock, so we have to move on. Now let's move on to So-san's presentation. I think Suo-san was very much inspired by the first presentation. Please start your presentation. My name is Suo. I have a design office in Kyoto. This time, I was in charge of the design of the structure of ACK. I've been involved in ACK for the past 3 years. As you already saw, there is an event hall at far back. In the event hall, we have gallery spaces, and at the back side, we have backspaces. We wanted to show the backspace as well, and today I want to talk about why we wanted to show the backspace. I like appreciating art, or I like going to art fairs and museums and exhibitions. And recently, there is something I've been feeling. That's the wide, fine space is uncomfortable for me recently, and I thought about why I'm uncomfortable in that wide, elegant space. Because by creating those spaces, we are also generating a lot of garbage and waste. When I think about those things, I just can't appreciate the art.
So I thought maybe it's a good idea to show the backside as well, so that we can exhibit art with the minimum required condition. And maybe this will lead to some level of comfort. So that's why I had this in my mind when I designed this site at ACK. So we have a steel pipe and leaf panel. I mean, these are the typical materials used in the museums. And basically, we are showing how we combine them in a bare way in a venue. So each booth, what I had in mind is we want the audience to concentrate on the artwork, because typically you have booths on both sides, but rather I made booths separate, individual, like this. So they are independent, and in each booth I want to make the condition that it's easy for people to appreciate the art. So that's why I had a concept to put each booth like this, as you see in the picture. So this picture on the left side, this is a typical configuration of an art fair where you have booths like this. But they are clean, neatly organized, and then like gallery owners or the artists sit in each booth. But basically what I did is disassemble them, and then I separated them. So in the booth, you only have the artwork. And if you have been to this site, maybe you have noticed already. But the furniture, actually there's a chair and table outside of the booth for the gallery and the artist to sit. In the gallery space, we have this type of furniture, and then people can get together there, sit down and talk. But within the booth, it's just a pure space to appreciate the art. So I hope you can understand that from this diagram. So by using these kind of things, there's a variety of art exhibition, and audience coming to see this can be proactive to have an encounter with the art. So this is how I designed this space, and this is the leaf panel, and then how we built this. So as you can see inside of the booth, this is the panel that you can reuse. So the part that you can reuse, and then this will be in white color, but other than that, it's not painted, it's not covered. And outside, as a construct, we need to build a wall, and we also used a material for scaffolding in a construction site. And by using this, the people coming to visit go through these areas and visit different booths. So this is the picture of the final, the white space is the gallery, and the back side is where people can get together. So just like this, galleries are not facing each other, but people coming to visit this, they go and explore and find those spaces. And on the outside of the booth, there's a space to have a meeting, or sometimes we have some displays. So both, basically there's no front and there's no back, and that's what I wanted to achieve. And this shows inside of the booth. This is really like a recreation of gallery space. You have a white space with a consistent lighting, but outside we have more bustles, and we wanted to make it more active. I apologize that there are no pictures here, but the colors are hard to see. But actually, every time we changed the layout in the first year, I tried to randomize the location so that people may get lost. And then I wanted to make a space where people can get lost, and they need to be proactive to look for something. Otherwise, they can't cover all the exhibitions. In the second year, again, it's hard to see, but I kind of organized the grid for both horizontal and vertical. And this year, I made like 3 open spaces in between. And this is the layout of this year's venue. On the right side, we have a collaboration booth. So there are 3 open spaces, and then around that, each gallery are positioned. And this hall is called New Hall. This is where we are. So this outside is a white wall, and actually inside they have wood exposed. So even though you go to different location, there's some connection in different scale, and then trying to create a sense of cohesiveness. And next one, I just explained about how, physical elements are brought together and how they can circulate. But this project I want to explain is a project in Yashima in Takamatsu City called Yashimaru. Yashimaru is like an observation tower. So this is located inside the national park, but the Yashima itself, the location itself, is also registered as a natural monument, meaning that you are not allowed to build anything new or from scratch. But in this case, in this project, they are given, they made it an exception, and they allowed us to build something new. So this is aerial picture of the top of the mountain or hill. It has a very good view, and the city of Takamatsu took the initiative to revamp this area or reactivate this area with this project. So there are many functions like cafe, but once you build something on this location, we don't know when there will be a next window to build something. So I took a lot of time to think about the design of the building, and this is also related to my, architectural philosophy. But when you think about a building or construct that can live for a long time, and they can be reinterpreted or repurposed. So what I mean by that is I wanted to build something that looked like a natural geographic feature, because geographic feature doesn't change over time, in a short time, but throughout the history, the interpretation is different. For example, this Yashima, this hill area, actually used to be a fort of defense, and also it was a place of worship under Buddhism. So now the city is trying to use this place as a tourist destination. Back in 1970, it was a popular destination for tourism. So I think the interpretation of the place or location is something that maybe architecture could contribute. So I wanted to make something that looked like the part of the natural geographic feature. So by having this integration, I wanted to propose a new way of architecture and construction. So as you can see, the building become part of the nature or environment. And the whole environment can be considered as an architecture. And so how to integrate with the natural environment or the geographic features? There are 6 open fields, and there is a wavy form of the construct, and then they connect those 6 open spaces together as if they is integrating all the 6 places into one. So the white part you see here is the construction, but rather than looking at it as a construction element, I wanted to integrate that with the shape of the natural form of this area. So I wanted to have a shape where the water is flowing naturally in this geographic area. So people can come in from different places. And in some places, they have some high elevation and have a good view over the ocean.
And also there are some small spaces where people can gather. And this is a picture of a small path. And the path is connected to this space. So I'm designing all those spaces to make a good fit to the natural environment. The shape of those buildings may look very unique and distinct, but if you actually go to the site, you can't really see those buildings as distinctive. This is the roof of the building. There is a local stone called aji-ishi, the white stone. And this is a stone often used for graves in Japan. However, only 3% of the stone can be used for commercial, because 97% of them cannot be used for those purposes. And that 97%, I was not aware of that 97%, so I wanted to use that stone for roof. However, using stone for roof may be a regular thing in Europe and some places in Japan, but we wanted to try to use this particular stone for roof of my building. And next to this building, we designed a tea house. We renovated a tea house next to the building that I just showed. This was a building built in 1970s. It looked very traditional and was not really appropriate for modern time. And the owner of the building asked me to rebuild this house so that it can be a good fit for current days. The picture above was the situation from the 1970s when there are many buildings still, but today we have less number of buildings. And this building had series of refurbishment and expansion. And in refurbishing this building, we needed to make this building smaller. So I explored the ways to make this building smaller and make it also fit for the current days. There is a very big tree in the site, so I didn't want to cut that tree because this was more than just a tree. It was part of the space, inevitable element of the space. That's why I didn't want to cut down that tree. I didn't want to break the atmosphere of the space. That's why I just wanted to keep the tree there in the space. And as to the building, I wanted to keep the structure as much as possible. As it was a wooden building, I needed to have support. And at the same time, I needed to give them a taste of current days. And I thought about giving a terrain to the space. This applies to the Yashimal building as well. I wanted to incorporate the building into the terrain while giving appropriate support to the structure. I designed this building. This is a picture demolishing the building, but we kept the structure itself, and then we rid of the walls while keeping the structure. We found many damages to the structure, but we decided to keep those damaged structure to express the space. Some of the structure were damaged by the termites, but we just kept them. And this is the building that I just showed you. There were some soils. We were not allowed to touch the soil because this was the historical monument. But once we dig the soil for structural purposes, it turns to be a waste. So we decided to use the soil to make a hill. We used those soil to make a hill within the building, and then we put concrete over it. And this is how we designed the building. We created a hill within the building. This is how we came up with the building and also a hill. And then we created shops and cafes and stalls. And this is how it looks, the connection between the building and also the new building. I wanted to create connection. So we had a yard in between those two buildings. This is the outside view. We added a hill to an existing building, and that created new spaces to the building, and we utilized those spaces, which is appropriate to the purpose. And at the lower right, there is a light. This was kept in a warehouse, and we reused that light in this building. This is my last slide. This is a pavilion we are we have designed for 2025 Expo. This is a pavilion by film director Kawase Naomi. Kawase Naomi asked me to design a building to store memories. This is an abandoned primary school, and we rebuilt that primary schools in this area. We are designing theater and entrance and also the gathering space using the material from those abandoned elementary schools. We got those abandoned schools from Totsukawamura village in Nara prefecture to store memories of the schools. So this is the process of rebuilding new schools using abandoned schools. It was a flat building, but we put them on top of each other to make it three-storied buildings. This is a building, abandoned buildings, a flat building to make a theater, but we needed a height to make a theater, so we lifted the abandoned building to make it higher, to have height. And this is another abandoned school in Totsukawamura village. We brought the structure of this abandoned building to create a gathering space. That's all from myself. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We are about 25 minutes behind the schedule, so I tried to wrap it up by 5 o'clock and look like that's the task that's given to me. Well, I was at the Tokyo University of Art until this March, but now today we have a director of Toyama Glass Museum. So I am an honorary director of Toyama City Glass Museum, and also I'm the chair and the director of the Fukuoka Construction College, and I'm also involved in the redevelopment of Namie Town. So I have been involved in thousands of projects in the past, but now that today I'm in Kyoto and I have a special feeling about Kyoto. Because of COVID pandemic, I didn't go out that much, but many people ask me how I'm doing, and since I have time, and actually when you have time, you can create many things. So thinking about Kyoto, the first thing I want to talk about is this person. And this person who started this Sabie activity, Izumi Masakazu, he's one of the master in Urasenke Tea School, and he already left us. He passed away, but he really made a great contribution for the Japanese art to be reevaluated. So he and Tanaka Iko-san invited me to modernize tea, to make the tea more contemporary, transcending time. I mean, there are values that can transcend time, or how important it is to have the group of individual, or shuhari. The basic concept is that you need to you need to preserve the basics, but at the same time, you can try something new, and that's a very important part of the creation. So if I start talk about this, it takes a long time, but basically, I mean, if you think about the tea ceremony, there is a sacred part and there's a secular part. And there is an interaction between the two. I mean, they have totally different values, but by interacting, they can have that understanding rather than confronting. And maybe you have a confrontation in the beginning. But what can accelerate the understanding is the time and space. I mean, those time and space need to be shared, and that's the key to have understanding. In 1992, Sabi Zen, this is an activity we started, and with the concept of suki, and what we try to do is to recreate the contemporary interpretation of this concept. So space, time, those are the values that's invisible, but actually these are the values that support chanoyu, or way of tea. And this is from Takashi Sugimoto, tea room using recycled materials. On the copper plate, we have the Raku tea bowl, or the 15th generation. And this is the one using a glass material, a triangle tea room. And this one, it's a concept, and I brought it to UNESCO as well. I asked Hiroshi-san to make a bamboo tea room. So everything can be disassembled, and they can bring this back to a peaceful state. So everything has the same concept. This is by Eto Sosas. It's a tea room by Japanese paper. And when you go inside the tea room, you can't see what's around you, but you can feel the light. And this is from Charlotte Perriand. Tea room of green. So inside you have a green space inside the tea room. This is by Tadao Ando. Dome tea room. It looked like a mothla of the egg, but the air can be the element or material. It's 1.2 air pressure inside, and this is when we had this in New York from Kitahara Atsushi. Made this space as well. So as part of this type of activity in 1995, I was a commissioner for 1995 Biennale, and I wanted to show that the concept of complex has diversity in it. And back then, there were criticisms as well. And some criticized me for making tea room in Venice. But tea room is really not the shape. And this is what I did for Japan Pavilion. Saigin, artist, its work. So it's made of 9,000 pipes of polyester pipes. And this polyester was provided by a Switzerland pharmaceutical company. And this polyester, over the 6 months period, they start to some degrade, or some started to have something that was brought over by nature, by wind. So we can also see the passing of time. And after the exhibition was all over, this material were recycled into a stocking for women. And another work is this garden. This is joint work by myself and Kengo Kuma, and then we really dig the ground. So basically, we wanted to have a diversity of time and diversity of style. So using computer graphics in this Biennale, the other day, Kaguchi Oichiro just got the cultural honor in Japan. But back then, when I get to know him, he was a student. But I brought him to Venice, and then we displayed his work. And this is Senju Hiroshi's work, and Hibino Katsuhiko's work. This is floating on water. So in order to show how it's floating, basically they needed to have a black background, and Kengo Kuma came up with this idea for this display. And back then he wasn't that busy, so two of us worked together for a year or two and then came up with this exhibition. And I have a lot of collaboration with Kengo Kuma, and I picked up some of the works. And one of them is in 2005, Nagasaki Prefecture Museum of Art. And the theme of this museum is the museum that breathes. So when I work as a producer for a project, I always try to come up with the best word, and then this time I wanted to have, I announced a museum that breathes. And one of the newspaper reporter asked me, what do you mean by a museum that breathes? Well, I know I have to wrap up in 10 minutes, but so a museum that can breathe in and breathe out people and the city where it resides. And maybe it's a little ambiguous, but looking at the time that we are in and the society, and basically a museum that lives with the time and with the space. And if you think about the circulation of roles, I mean, this is some idea that I had about 20 years ago when I worked on this museum. So there are multiple functions, and eventually these functions, well, eventually something that the museum exhibited or showed will contribute to the community. So this is the actual picture of the museum. This is the first museum that display immediate art outside. And my basic belief is that the museum should be free, and then that's not materialized yet. But I believe that to some extent I was able to do this.
And not only the building itself, I wanted to integrate the activities as well. To achieve that, we had concerts and shops using the entire lobby, and the museums are updated on a regular basis. This is Glass Museum in Toyama City, was established in 2015. The concept of this museum is transparency. Transparency is the characteristic of glass. The ideas should be penetrate into the city, but that itself doesn't make any sense. Therefore, I combined library project and museum projects in that city. So I came up with this idea of compact city within the compact city to disseminate information or disseminate ideas. This is the project that I did together with Kengo Kuma, and this is the picture from the completed building. I think this is the biggest glass museum in the world. Director Mr. Tsuchida is here with us, and we'll have an event next month. You can see everything from inside, and there are many free spaces inside this museum. We can do a lot of activities of the citizens. That's how we completed the idea of compact city within the compact city. We also have a lot of books, bookshelves. In this museum, we can inspire people. And we have free spaces, and we wanted to create a garden of glasses. This is a vessel or a ship which was actually used which used to be used in Toyama city for practical purposes. And we also wanted to create a paradise. We wanted to reproduce a paradise. I was asked to create a sanctuary by the city. This is the area which had a lot of cultural exchange with overseas countries. And this is an area which had been washed away by flood so many times. But each time when they are flooded away, they are regenerated. And this is the building, the main building. And I asked 3 architects to design 3 different buildings. Those are all cultural buildings. This is designed by Suemitsu, and this is by Fujiwara from Yokohama National University. And those 3 different things are coexisting with each other, and artists can select the building they want, where they want to exhibit their pieces. I only have 5 minutes left. And in this piece, they used local stones to have this piece. And at around the same time, I produced a Starbucks in the Zaifu city. This was not designed to have Starbucks. We just wanted to create a space. And we thought that creating a void space makes the biggest contribution to the local people. But we wanted to serve teas, so we wanted to create cafe. And we asked Kuma Kengo to create a cafe space. And then after designing the space, we asked Starbucks to have a Starbucks cafe. If you rid of those wooden pieces, you can have a void space. And this is about events installations. This is about regeneration without construction. We wanted to create this space because I was asked by Toyama City to promote the art and crafts in this area. There was a town called Kanayamachi City. This is a picture from an event. That's why we have a lot of people. Usually there is no person walking on this street. But we wanted to do some kind of manufacturing in this town. And I created this space where nothing goes on. We just put furniture in this space using 5,000 aluminums. We turned car parking space into a cafe. This is Augustus Plaza in Rome. This is very light, so it can be brought to anywhere. This is furniture. It can weigh up to 120 kilometers. So this is art and craft pieces which can be brought to anywhere utilizing aluminum spaces. Aluminum plates. This was how we made contribution to the promotion of art and crafts. Nicola-san's face reminds me of Paris. This is a project I did in 1997 in Paris for the exhibition of the Century of Design. There is nothing exhibited in this space. As there is nothing at the center, everything can gather and everything can have same amount of value. This was done by Tadao Ando. The tube or the mold by Ando Tadao was used for this, and the exhibition is all at the backside of those pillars. Design is a continuous process, and that exists within cities. That's my thinking, because if design is not part of the daily lives, it doesn't have any meaning. So together with Tadao Ando, we decided to build all of those pillars along the Seine River. But it was difficult, so we created the exhibition panels at 60 subway stations. And this is a project we did at Marunouchi in Tokyo. I was involved in this project for the past 7 years. This is done by the manga artist. This was exhibited to promote conversation or dialogue amongst the people in this city. This is an art labo project. In this project, we didn't create or we didn't generate anything. There is only projector here so that anybody can come here and to create something there.
And this space is connected to different parts of the world, and then because it was during the time of pandemic, so we had a creation from other parts of the world and presented or projected here as well. It looks like my time just is up, so I would like to finish my presentation. Thank you very much. So maybe we can, before we close, actually we wanted to have some time for discussion, but seems like the time had run out, so maybe we can have some quick closing comments. Nicola-san, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, very shortly, maybe I can share with you, with the two presentations after me, that we are changing the way we look at the existing things, and maybe materials are less and less available, but the brain is more and more here, and so maybe we need to use less material but more gray matter from our collective intelligence, I can say. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much.
So, through architecture, when there are changes in the society, the values change, and I think Nicola's presentation really presented that. And then the way we look at things, it's not just in architecture, but when we work or when we engage in society, I think having a new perspective is very important as well. Thank you. So Suo-san presentation, because I didn't make a comment on Suo-san's work, so I just want to make some comments. So when I look at the layout, it looked like a QR code to me, in the sense that, if you think about the placement, placement is a kind of a stamp of an architect, often overlooked, but as I mentioned earlier, if you think about the placement of space and time, and that's very important to create a culture. because we were very limited in time and I didn't have enough discussion, but I was very happy to listen to your presentations. Thank you very much.